be boots on the ground. And you brought up a very interesting point, Felix. You remember what that was?
No.
You said that in the Pentagon,
Yes.
it's pretty hush-hush, but a lot of the generals and the people that make military policy are saying off the record that unless troops are committed, that this insurgency is going to go nowhere.
First thing is you need spotters for the airplanes to tell them where to bomb. Maybe some CIA people do, but that's still...
Well, they talk about, when they say no boots on the ground, that doesn't take into account black ops, okay? Which is probably where they would be getting most of their information. But still, you're talking about young men, for the most part. Women, they could be female pilots. I don't know about female fighters on the ground. I would assume they'll have some. They had them in Iraq and Afghanistan. But, you know, and then today, one of the senators that was interviewed brought up a good point. He said if they beheaded two journalists, a photojournalist and a regular journalist, and a British humanitarian worker, what do you think they're going to do to an American soldier who's captured? And how well will that sit with the American people? Although I really don't remember very much being done when Daniel Pearl was beheaded by Al-Qaeda, if you recall. Felix?
Yeah.
When Daniel Pearl was beheaded, you know, yes, there was a big uproar and people were upset, but nothing really happened. Nothing really became of that. Yeah, they made a movie. Angelina Jolie made a movie. But no retribution. And there won't be any retribution. And that's what ISIS is counting on right now.
Well, ISIS is playing a mind game. This is the whole thing. They're very good at what they do. I mean, they take films of everything, videos of everything they do. They publish it in English and also Arabic. They're scaring their enemies before they approach. That's why they have very little resistance.
Well, and you know, even if you turn yourself in, there are no guarantees. I mean, I don't think any of the three men who were beheaded put up any great resistance. You know, I'm sure they tried to identify themselves as either journalists or the humanitarian, you know, and it didn't make a difference to ISIL.
ISIL said they all has some kind of, their family has some kind of military backgrounds, which means like the old Nazis, you know, doesn't matter who you were, you know.
The one who did the beheading claimed that this was in retaliation for America's actions against ISIL.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember reading anything about any military in the family.
I did talk about it today. They all have some kind of military connection, or they say they did, or something. You know, they'll pull anything they want. What's the difference?
Yeah, it's true. But you know what we forgot to do, Felix?
Phone number.
That's right.
595-3275. But that number is also out on the. When they go on the website, they can see it says to call us.
I know, and I'm very disappointed because just like Friday, we had people banging on the doors to get into the chat room, and the chat room is open, and no one is there. So come on, folks. Felix and I are having a great conversation, but we're very much in agreement here. If anybody has anything that they would like to dispute, you know, maybe we can get a neoconservative to call in, you know, like Lindsey Graham talking about boots on the ground.
Well, I agree with him. It's only going to be more of a boots on the ground.
Yeah, but you know something?
Hopefully we can get enough other boots that we don't use to use our own.
I'm remembering a song by Phil Oakes that was very popular back in the early 60s, primarily for Vietnam. And I ain't a-marching anymore. When he says, it's always the old who lead us to the wars and always the young to fall. Look at all we've won with a saber and a gun, and tell me, is it worth it all? Okay, the bottom line is, Iraq, there are no gains. We can't bring democracy to Iraq and Afghanistan, to Egypt. These countries don't know from democracy. You know, they only know of one thing, so why are we forcing democracy? You know, George Bush said all of these dictatorships, you know, they're all democracies waiting to come out.
Well, you know, I think there might be different types of democracies that do come out, but not after our model. Russia is a democracy, but not after our model.
You know, when they have free elections in Egypt and eventually again in Iraq, and who knows what they're going to have in Afghanistan, the outcome might not be what America would like to see.
It usually isn't. You know, but we haven't learned to accept their will. It's their will, what they want. And we seem to want to impose our will, our democracy, which may not work for them.
And our democracy may not work for them.
That's a prime example of Russia. You know, Putin was voted in. He's got 70-80% approval rating. People love him. You know, we don't like him, but people in Russia do. So, you know, who's to say? What's good for the goose is not good for the gander, or whatever the expression is.
No one knows. So come on, folks. We want to see the phones lighting up here. What?
What? We don't beg for phone calls, Mark.
I'm not begging. I just said we want to see the phones lighting up. It's like a telethon, you know?
I don't like it. I don't like anybody calling me. I'd rather talk. I can tell her.
Well,
I can say whatever I want. Have my own opinions, and if somebody doesn't like it, who cares? You know, if that's what to say, then they can.
Opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one. There, I said it.
Yes. Your favorite expression?
Actually, my wife's favorite expression.
It is. Everybody's got opinions.
Everybody has an opinion, and their opinions are important to them. All we're asking people to do is share their opinion. We don't have to agree with them. I mean, let's face it, Felix, do we agree all the time?
Absolutely not.
Works for me.
What fun would it be if we agreed all the time?
That's very true.
I say, Mark, yeah, that's right. Yes, that's right. That's our conversation. Yep. Okay, you're right. Okay. That's not good. First thing, besides, we all have our individual thoughts. We all have our own minds. I mean, Mark is a supporter of Hillary Clinton, I believe. Are you not?
Yes.
But she's hawkish.
I realize that, and that's something that I have to come to terms with.
And
I mean, most of the people, most of the progressives that I know that are even more to the left than me would like to see the senator from Massachusetts, Elizabeth Warren. But I think she's too far to the left for most Democrats to be able to support. You know, she's almost like, Ted Cruz. Well, not as bad as Ted Cruz being on the right, but, at some point, the nominee has to move closer to the middle if they hope to win, because that's how you govern in this country. You can't govern from the extreme right or the extreme left.
As we see it, has been going on for the last 6 years.
No, President Obama...
I'm not saying him in combination with the Congress.
What Congress?
They are separated.
Well, it's true. You know, I mean, like I said, you had the 2010 election. Many people were elected to Congress who said, basically, to hell with the old Republican line or the old Democratic line, but it was basically the Republican wave. And these people are not willing to give an inch, and they are controlling everything.
Well, listen, neither is the president. Yeah, I hate to say, but the president is just as bad as anybody else.
You know,
he's got his thing, and there has to be his way.
Felix, I have to disagree with you because.
You disagree with me?
Yes, because you know when Mitch McConnell said when Obama was elected to his first term that his job is to make Obama a one-term president, and then they start voting no on everything that he wants, okay, even if it's something that the Republican Party had supported in the past, okay, they don't want to give him an inch, okay, and unfortunately, we're the ones that are suffering because Congress is still being paid. The majority of them, as you like to say, are still being sent back.
Yeah.
You know, so you get what you deserve. I mean, is this what we deserve? We have to really ask ourselves.
Well, this is what we asked for, we got it. I hate to say, but I voted for Obama. Both times. Am I sorry now? Not really. I'm not sorry that I voted for him.
Well, I mean, you know, think about where McCain is right now. McCain, like Lindsey Graham, is already denouncing the president's policy up until now. We need boots on the ground, just like Lindsey Graham said. He himself also said, but then again, he's prisoner of war for 5 years in Vietnam. He's a hawk, okay? He has a son who's in the military, went to Annapolis. He has a daughter who is a media pundit on one of the smaller cable networks. She's a Republican, but I think she's a little bit more to the center than her father is. Almost like Abby Huntsman, you know, John Huntsman's daughter. And John Huntsman, you know, former ambassador to China. I wouldn't mind seeing him as a Republican nominee for president, but it'll never happen. He was one of the first to declare and then drop out in 2012. No, 2008. I'm sorry, I apologize, because then he was made ambassador to China.
But that really, it's a tough world out there, and unfortunately, I think at this time, at this age, we need a president that will take a tougher stand. And I don't know if Obama wants to take a tougher stand.
He's very cautious. He's cautious almost to a fault. At least that's what Barbara Boxer said. Barbara Boxer is one of the ranking members of the Foreign Affairs Committee, Democrat from California, and she said she would like to see him take a firmer stand. And that seems to be the biggest complaint by most Democrats.
Because nobody takes him seriously anymore. You can see what's happening in Ukraine and Putin. Putin doesn't seem to really